Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday of a Labor Day weekend, or post-Labor Day weekend, I should say. Trying to keep the days straight. Just proud of myself. I hadn't screwed up a day yet. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte as well from Outsider.com. Hope you're having a great day. Don't forget we're brought to you, of course, by our friends from the Wow Club and Endeavor Hospitality. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, sign up for your Wow Club, start earning Wow rewards today, as well as Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Hope everything's going well for you. What's new, Mr. Dustin Schutte?
Well, I got up really early this morning, was adventurous, was going to do some good work for my job to try out this breakfast place, and it was closed. So not the best start to the morning, but I did go over to Maple Street. I don't know if that's a chain.
Word. Research.
I did do research. It said it was open.
Then what was the problem?
The place had caught fire on Monday, and they didn't update their Facebook or their website. So because they're dealing with a lot of other stuff, I'm guessing right now. So I just didn't see the story. I got there was a bunch of caution tape all over the place. I thought maybe it closed down. Maybe they were repainting.
Sounds like somebody was murdered.
It could have been a murder, but apparently the place went up in flames. So the entire inside is not in good shape. But I did get a coffee. I did get went to Maple Street, got a country fried steak with a biscuit and sausage gravy.
We're going into full deep detail here.
Hey, I don't joke with it when it comes to food, man.
No, didn't have a hair in the biscuit, I guess. Hopefully,
nope.
No hair in the gravy. That's good. Yeah, plenty to get to today. We didn't talk about yesterday. NASCAR had their weekend in which Richard Petty Motorsports back in the winner's circle. Kevin Harvick had fun afterwards talking about NASCAR. Yeah. AP Top 25 is out. Got a new #1, baby. Alabama, not #1 anymore. Replaced by Georgia.
Did they? Wow.
Yeah.
I actually did not see that.
Well, at least I would assume this is the AP. It's in the Athletic. But yeah, the one I saw has Georgia at the top. That may be their own top 25. That may not be the AP.
I think it is because the AP has Alabama at #1.
Yeah, well, I'm going with this. I'm going with the Athletic.
I actually agree because I think Georgia looked a lot better.
Yes.
It's one game, but they beat a number 11 ranked Oregon team by 46 points. So as opposed to Alabama beating Utah State 55-0, I would go ahead and give Georgia the bump there. That was the most impressive win of week 1 in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they beat Oregon. So you've got Georgia, Alabama sitting at 1 and 2 in this particular poll, and then you've got Ohio State and Michigan. So
yeah,
it's an SEC Big Ten tussle at the top already.
And they've got
Clemson, Notre Dame, Baylor, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Florida. So the Big 12 not going anywhere.
No, Big 12. We're going to see some things from the Big 12 this week, though, because Oklahoma State plays Arizona State, Baylor plays BYU, Texas plays Alabama. So this is a big weekend for them.
It's always a big weekend, baby. What else is going on over the sports weekend? Oh, this Friday, don't forget, is Jim Irsay's
Oh, yes.
deal. of the
The
ninth.
Jim Irsay collection.
The Jim Irsay collection, man. Don't miss out on that. You'll kick yourself.
We actually, after we talked to Matt Taylor last week about it, we did a write-up on it on outsider.com.
Oh, we can tell that to Matt.
We can, because it's kind of a cross between everything we're doing. So I thought, what better way to get some promotion out there for it?
There you go, boo-wah. So looking forward to that. Just seeing if anything out crazy out there. Nothing else that's new.
I got something for you. Kevin Brockway's New York Mets have squandered their lead in the NL East division. They have led the entire season, and they got beat by the Pittsburgh Pirates 8-2 last night. They've lost 3 in a row, 2 to the Nationals, then to the Pirates.
Oh my God! The two of the worst teams in all of baseball.
Yep, and the Braves beat the A's last night, so they are at the top.
Let's see. I'm gonna have to pull up. So they're a game back now.
No, it's tied. So the Braves and Mets are tied atop the NL East. They're 10.5 games ahead of Philadelphia. So it's coming down to, once again, the Braves and the Mets. But the Mets have led since opening day. They've had a lead, at least a half-game lead since opening day. They've squandered it already.
Tie is what? 10 games, I think, where they had like a 10-game lead at one time, I thought.
Yes, I think it was 10.5 or 11. It was up there, and then most recently they had as much as a 7.5 game lead.
The Yankees, they're not much better, although that they're still holding on to their lead with a 4.5 game over the Rays. They've had at least like a 12-game lead as well, or maybe more.
They were up to 16.5.
But they're still not helping themselves. They're barely. 1 game under 500 in their last 10 games, going 4-6. And Tampa Bay has gone 7-3, and the Blue Jays have gone 7-3 during that period. So they keep climbing in. The Rays are only 4.5 games back of the Yankees now. And
big series this weekend because the Yankees and the Rays play each other Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's a huge 3-game series.
That would be just hilarious to see both New York teams squander leads. Not that either will not make the playoffs. They'll both make the playoffs, but
right.
But I'll tell you, those Blue Jays are fighting to get in with the Mariners. Yeah, that daggone Eastern Division of the American League is just
stacked.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, the last place team, the Red Sox, are 3 games under 500.
Yep.
Only 3 games under 500. They would be in 3rd place in the American League Central.
That is, well.
They'd be in 3rd place in the American League West.
Wow. Yeah, they would. Hey, the White Sox are up to Rick Bozich's White Sox are up back to 500. So, and they're only 3 games back. How about that?
Oh, they're fighting, man.
That's
a division you can fight for. You can fight in. The thing is, though, crazy that but you have to win the division there to hit the playoffs.
Yes, exactly.
How's everybody doing? Travis sitting up the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Larry G. I'm going with that's right, Larry. We got Georgia number 1 here in this poll. They're the best. They're the best team. Wyatt, Cardinals are battling for the number 2 seed in the National League. John C's got his tickets for the Jim Irsay collection. Can't wait to check it out. I guess I have mine. I did it online. Dwayne's with us as well. How about let's see, Idaho's. No, I was looking at something different, but a short week between, not really, kind of, it seems that way, I guess, because of the holiday, but it's not really a short week for Indiana. It's a long week because they played last Friday.
Yeah.
So now they get extra days. I don't know how much that will correlate into practice time. It's probably going to be a lot more film time. But now you've got some days to rest. So a little bit different scenario going into this game. But I think they have to maintain that level of the importance of how important a game is every week. Like the importance level that game had on it. That has to play out, I think, mentally for the IU football team every week. For that season to end up in a bowl, and that's very possible.
Yeah, I think we talked about if Indiana could beat Illinois, then you look at the next two games, and those are two very winnable games. All of a sudden, playing Nebraska, Rutgers, Maryland, some of those teams, even Purdue at the end of the season, some of those games look very winnable now on the schedule. So I think you can be pretty – I don't want to say confident because the Big Ten is a tough league, so there's no guarantees. But I think you at least have a little bit more confidence now knowing you've got that first win under your belt. You got a Big Ten win under your belt. You should start the season 3-0. You should, at worst case scenario, start the year 4-1 because Nebraska right now has not looked good in their first two games against Northwestern and North Dakota. We'll see what happens against Georgia Southern. So, I mean, I think you continue to build off this momentum. And look, especially the defense. I think the defense isn't going to have any trouble keeping that level of intensity. We saw it in week 1. We saw Cam Jones play with a new level of passion. 12 tackles. He was outstanding. The defense is swarming the ball. They forced 4 turnovers. They're getting back to that Tom Allen mentality. The big question is the offense. What can it do? You can't have Connor Bazelak throwing 30 or 40 passes this game. You got to be able to establish the run game. You should be able to impose your will on a team like Idaho. They weren't really able to do it last year on the ground, so it'll be interesting to see how they try to do this. But they need to try to establish something on the ground since this should be basically a glorified scrimmage for them.
Indiana University is it's been 3 years since they have been able to have a Hall of Fame class because of everything that's been going on.
Oh, wow.
So got a new class. And Don Fisher, our good friend, is a part of that. So I can't wait to congratulate him next week. DJ White, former IU basketball player, also a part of that class. Ashley Benson, does that name sound familiar to you? Her father, she had a dad named Kent. Played on the undefeated Indiana basketball team, but she was a hell of a volleyball player, a 2-time All-American at Indiana. She's going in. Jen Christie was women's swimming. Lynn Loring, IU women's tennis coach for 30 years? Is that 40 years? 77 through 2017.
Wow. That would be
crazy.
40 years.
40.
Yeah.
Yes. That's Tina Parrott, women's track and field in the early 80s. DJ White, as I mentioned, he was 2005 and through 08. And see, Tom Allen sending out a congratulations and other coaches as well. But there's your Indiana Hall of Fame class coming up. So that was announced yesterday. So looking forward to talking to Fish next week, the Hall of Famer.
There you go.
He'll hate that. Oh, he'll hate it. I will do it one time just to mess with him, but I won't do it all the time because he will hate that. He does not like that stuff. But, man, we've got a great one. Looking forward to it. Bob Kravitz talking about Rick Bozich, Hall of Famers. Kyle Neddenriep as well. Great fun. Great show. Looking forward to it, man. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle alongside Dustin Schutte, brought to you by our good friends at BB's Market. They are your local meat shop caterer, no matter where you live. Man, I went in there. The show last Friday was incredible. The meats, I bought some steaks, ribeyes, and fillets, and everything is gone, with the exception of one of the fillets is already prepared and made and ready to be devoured. As a matter of fact, that sounds like a really good lunch today, doesn't it?
There you go. That does sound good.
It's already got mashed potatoes, corn, and green beans ready to go with it.
Oh,
yeah, baby.
I'm jealous.
You get out and visit BB's Market. Visit bbsmarket.com. I also had my blueberry sausage with my breakfast yesterday. It was incredible. We got more coming up here at Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club. High atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting... Yeah, Arrington Page.
Oh, excuse me.
Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, boys. How are you?
Hola!
Sleepy.
Hola.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm on day 4 of a diet, and I want to kill somebody.
What kind of diet is this? What kind of diet? Does this diet have a name?
Yes, Weight Watch. Yeah, it's worked for me before, only for me to blow up again. So it's time to lose a bunch.
Oh boy.
I'm
don't
saving
envy that.
So you were talking about steak and mashed
Oh boy.
and beans, and all I can say is bite me.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I'm going to save this for the. Every time I see those commercials, they're talking about, I had this and I had that.
No, you ain't eating much. You ain't eating much. That's the whole
right.
damn idea.
I gotta save this conversation. I'll laugh if I don't. How's everything else going, brother?
Good, man. Got a good piece going tomorrow. Kind of a Colts preview. We can talk about that. We can talk about the IU game, Purdue game, whatever you feel like.
All of the above. Coach preview piece. Oh yeah, they open next week. Is it this week?
They open Sunday.
IU?
Sunday.
I mean, the Colts, yeah, this Sunday.
Yeah. It's all here, baby.
You say, yeah, we're back in the full swing now.
Yeah.
Week 4 of high school football, if you can believe that.
I just try to survive the summer, come up with enough stuff to write about during the summer because it's so damn slow here.
Yeah. That's always that was always the
we always had
challenge.
the Rockies, and we had stuff going on during the summer, but it is slow around here.
All right, here we go.
We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday. We've made it to the halfway point already. Thank goodness to the Labor Day weekend. Bob Kravitz with The Athletic with us. How are you, Robert?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Cannot complain. Miss Dr. Schutte's with us as well. We were just talking about the baseball, man. Too bad Kevin Brockway's not with us because his Mets are sucking. Man, they have.
I don't want to talk about it because I grew up a Mets fan.
Oh, I didn't know you were a Mets fan too, man.
I grew up in Long Island, and grew up a Mets fan. Can still name every starting player, the starting 9 for
73
the
team,
Miracle Mets
in 69.
69. It was a good year. The Knicks won that year, and I think the Jets won. It was a good year.
Oh, wow. That was Joe Namath, Brandon. Broadway Joe.
It's a good year to be 9 years old and a sports fanatic.
That's one of my – that's still him running off the field in that slow motion with his finger in the air.
Yes.
That is – I don't know why. That's still one of the most indelible – because I wasn't a Jets fan, but that's one of the most indelible sports moments for me for some reason. Just him doing that.
Very iconic.
I guess maybe because it was so unexpected, but
they were 18-point underdogs that game.
Characters, baby. Characters. College football underway as well. Purdue did not get the start that they were hoping for. Indiana maybe surprised some people. They certainly surprised them with a game-winning drive, but getting a win, period, and starting the Big Ten season with a win. Certainly a great start for Indiana because now they're at the very least should start the season 3-0 before they go to a Cincinnati team that still looks to be pretty formidable. And watching them, they're very well coached. Obviously, you can tell they've made a ton of mistakes. Cincinnati did in that game. I watched that game. They made more mistakes. I couldn't believe the mistake. They shot themselves in the foot in that game virtually.
Right. First game. First game is hard to tell, but I thought IU defensively was outstanding. I don't know how many tackles for loss they had, but it was a bunch. And I thought Bozich, for a guy who didn't have a running game, 300 and something yards, I thought he was terrific. I thought he showed a lot of poise in that final drive.
Well, that's him right there. You just encapsulated him with that word. He's always like that.
Yeah. So I was very, very impressed. That said, and I know you probably have more IU fans watching this than Purdue fans. I think by the time the season is over, Purdue will have a far superior record to IU. Agree or disagree?
I would have easily agreed with that at the start of the season. I have to look at Purdue's record or schedule.
They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. They've got a cush schedule.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you already then.
All right.
Because Indiana's still to me, I still see them, if they can getting to 6 wins is possible for this team now, but it's still it's going to be a chore because of who they have to play, where Purdue will probably easily win 7 and possibly 8 games.
Yes, I agree. I think they're an 8-win team. Look, they found somebody in Charlie Jones, this kid from Iowa. I mean, he had he got halfway to his total in one game. He got halfway to his total at Iowa. So, and I think Aiden O'Connell is I think he's got NFL ability. I really do. I think he's so accurate and, again, poised. They talk about shooting yourself in the foot. They shot themselves in the head. I mean, terrible tackling, that the fumble and the ensuing touchdown by Penn State before the half. I mean, the penalties. This is a team that averaged 4.5 penalties a game last year. I think they had 9. And they were all really hurtful. They came at the worst time. So I just thought they beat themselves in many ways. And I think by season's end, Purdue will be the superior team. But we'll see.
I want to ask something about the end of that Purdue game. A lot has been made about whether they should have ran the football, ran some clock, or whether they should have passed it. To me, I feel like that's almost a no-win situation. You obviously throw in completions, you stop the clock. At the same time, you look at the stat sheet, I think they had 70 yards on 23 carries or 25 carries, something ridiculous. I feel like if they run the ball 3 straight times and you don't get anywhere and Penn State still scores, then you have the reverse. We have the reverse conversation where why weren't you throwing the ball? You were able to get some completions and pick apart Penn State's defense at times. You were never able to run the football. So I'm not saying it was the right or wrong call. I'm just interested in another perspective on this.
Well, I'm not, because I want to see you do a spit take. But no, look, they had a couple penalties. There you go, Jim. They had 2nd and 25 with about 4 minutes left. I mean, you're not going to get the first down there, and they're throwing deep. They're not even throwing short passes. They're throwing deep. So 2nd and 25, he throws the ball downfield. 3rd and 30, he's throwing the ball downfield. If you run the ball, you force them to use their timeouts. They got on the bus. There was a seat there for the 2 timeouts to sit. I mean, they walked out. There were 2 timeouts. So there, you have got to run the football. That was a giveaway. Now, would they have they scored super quick? So, you don't know that it would have stopped them, but still, you put more pressure on them where they get the ball back with less time and no timeouts. It changes their entire approach. I thought that Jeff Brom got a little goofy there.
Yeah, that surprised me a little bit. Indiana, knowing that they have a quarterback that you can count on, because I promise you that's the thing that struck me about him, or every time I've been around him, he is the same way. He doesn't get jacked up. And, man, you want that in a quarterback. Tom Allen, of course, was more jacked up after the game because he was – actually, I think Connor Bazelak was the first to speak to us. So he brought us to him in the first, and he was just matter of fact. He said, "Oh, okay." Just talking, boom, boom, and it was it. And he's been that way every time, and I can see him in the huddle being that way. And Indiana they're very fortunate to have him. What did Missouri do? Curiously,
I have no earthly idea.
I'm just curious because Missouri also has a former defensive coach there from IU. And Bob, did you notice that Indiana's former defensive coordinator, who's now part of the North Carolina staff, they gave up over 60 points to App State.
40 in the fourth quarter. They scored 40 in the fourth quarter and lost.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
That's unbelievable.
And well, for people who don't understand how bad it was for Indiana last year, there's your defensive coordinator. He's a part of that staff now. And your quarterback that was misused or not protected, he was easily gained the starting job in Washington and threw for over 300 yards there.
Well, I'm rooting for that kid. I am rooting for that kid. I don't think he was misused. I mean, yeah, they didn't protect him well.
Misprotected is what I meant. He was just not.
He just wasn't right. I mean, he still wasn't right after the surgeries. But yeah, I'm really rooting for that kid. He's good people, and people complain about the transfer portal, but he needed a new opportunity. He needed a fresh start, and that's what it's meant for.
It was great. It was perfect for him. It's unfortunate for Indiana. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, because he's not as mobile as Connor Bazelak. And I'm not saying Connor Bazelak is someone who can pick up 40 yards, but at the same time, he can scramble. He can create plays. He can.
He had the longest run from scrimmage.
He can extend. That's true. he can extend plays. Michael Penix really can't do that. So
yeah, Penix. I always thought Penix could run.
He could. Everybody was afraid when he ran because he was going to get hurt.
Right. Yeah.
I don't blame him. Can't say I blame him.
Looking forward to another slate of games this week. We've got week 4 of high school football. You've got the start of the NFL. You've got the piece coming out on the Colts. So everything will be in full gear. We've got a new IU Hall of Fame class going in. I mentioned earlier Don Fisher going into the IU Hall of Fame along with DJ White, Lynn Loring, and who else? There was someone else of note that I missed. Is he going in this class? Or he's already in, isn't he? Or is he?
He's got to be in already.
Yeah. Sean McDonough. I'm sure you know Sean.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good friend of mine as well. I was fortunate to work with him at CBS long time
I worked
ago.
with his father. This is how old I am. I worked with Will when I was an intern at the Boston Globe in 1981. 1981, Will McDonough was on that staff. He was the Pope, man. He was.
Will McDonough, was he the first writer that made the transition to TV? Or he was definitely one of them, if not the first guy.
Yes, and he was really Adam Schefter before Adam Schefter, before the digital age, where he did a Sunday Notes column that was so complete, and it was an absolute must read. We had Peter Gammons, we had Bob Ryan. I mean, we had a murderer's row of journalists.
Oh, wow.
On that group. Dan Shaughnessy,
Bob Ryan
just coming along.
Did you have Curry Kirkpatrick and this make it the All-Irish?
No. Curry was at SI when I was there for 15 minutes.
That's funny. You talk about the Irish section, baby.
Exactly.
Cool. Let's see. You're on a diet, you mentioned also.
Why do I tell you anything off the air?
Well, I love diets because
week. It's my first week and it's brutal.
Well, diets crack me up because I've always said that's why I asked you, does this diet have a name? Because all these different diets, and you said Weight Watchers. I'm like, okay, well that's one I have some respect for, because if I wrote a diet book, it would be the shortest diet book in the history of the world. Page 1, take in less calories. Page 2, burn off more calories. Page 3, check your results.
Yeah. That's pretty much what this is.
And that's kind of what exactly Weight Watchers kind of goes along with that.
Yeah,
they try to spoof it up now. I do see it cracks me up when they see the commercial, and I had steak and eggs for breakfast. And
so, my wife and I were talking about going on this diet, and this is why this is what I hate about Facebook and computers in general. All of a sudden on my Facebook, I got all these diet things on my Facebook. Like a couple of days ago, I was saying to my wife, I'd like you to come out to the driving range and film me with my swing, because I know I'm doing something wrong and I need video feedback. And all of a sudden on Facebook, I get all these things, these gadgets, which help you take video of your swing. Like, what the hell? You can't even speak in front of your computer anymore.
Oh no. Oh, I guarantee you. My same thing. I'm
just writing down here really quick that I had country fried steak, a biscuit.
Shut up, Scooty.
Yeah.
I'm having high fiber breakfast cereal and skim milk.
Usually I have Cheerios and almond milk. That's usually my breakfast. So I had to do this for work. So
I see. When I was doing WTHR, I said I'm going to lose a lot of weight and look really good on TV, and it never happened.
Well, that's because you gained 10 pounds as soon as you went on television. So now you have to go.
I had to lose.
You got to go negative 20.
Exactly. It's just not right.
Our old buddy Forrest says he's been on the Atkins diet since early May, and he's gone from 236 to 193.
Now, the Atkins, isn't that like all meat and no? I think that's the all meat one. I don't think I want that.
I think it's no carbs.
I eat steak every night, but I got to get some carbs.
He lives. Oh yeah, Bob lives on a rampage. Let's see. Missouri beat Louisiana Tech 54-24. That's a lot of points to give up to Louisiana Tech, but I guess they're a scorer. I was just curious on that. I wonder. So Missouri obviously has a quarterback that can put some points on the board as well. But looking forward to. But now Indiana, they can go 3-0. Bob, then did you happen to watch the Cincinnati game?
I did not.
Cincinnati still looks good. They lost to Arkansas, but they should have won that game. Like I said earlier, they just shot themselves in the foot throughout that game. But that's going to be a tough game for Indiana.
That's going to be really
tough. And I tell you who's shocking me now because
fighting potato skins.
Oh, yeah.
They did take Washington State to the wire. That was a 7-point game.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't.
And it is Indiana. I mean, Indiana does not handle success well.
And they're not going to show a lot.
Historically.
They don't have a lot to show
no
right now.
But, they're saving their running game for Cincinnati. Is that what you're
absolutely. Absolutely. that off right tackle, off guard dive, man, they're saving that stuff. Okay. But if, and it's a big old if, but let's say Indiana does something out of the ordinary and was to upset Cincinnati, which is not out of the realm of possibilities. I just don't think it's going to happen because I think Cincinnati is just too good of a second half team still. I think they're so well coached, but they go to Nebraska next. Nebraska is sucking air, baby.
Dumpster fire.
I mean, wow. Yes. I thought that the Northwestern game was okay. It's a Big Ten loss. You travel, you screwed up with the onside. Whoo, they struggled. They struggled at home against nobody. And I'm like, holy cow.
I see no way that guy keeps his job. No way. Nope. Unless they have an incredible run here. I think that guy's done. I mean, that onside kick was
cost him his job.
Stupidest things I have ever seen. You go up, what would they go up 11 or something?
11. Yep.
11. And he's onside kicking early in the game. Good.
With his defense that is playing so well.
Right. It made no sense.
Well, that Indiana and Nebraska game, he loses that game. He gets fired. I'm telling you, because
his contract, the buyout
built around
doesn't it go way down either?
It's like right before IU.
Okay. All right.
Yep, absolutely. I know, Bob, you've got a piece coming out. We talked about the Colts, so make sure you follow that and check that out. But just give Bob a follow because he's just a character. Yeah, you're talking about. I got some new irons. They're new to me, I should say. They're not brand new, but from the pro at here at Eagle Point, TaylorMade Sims, nice clubs. But as soon as I started talking about it and research, all that stuff was all over my phone, all over the computer, everything popping up. And I'm like, dude, it's crazy how if you don't think that this stuff is spying on you, you're crazy.
Hey,
Indiana's got some.
I was going to say, speaking of wanting to kill someone, I just want to say that we played golf on Sunday, and the course we went out on down here in Florida allowed a 6-em out. It took us 5.5 hours to play a round of golf, and in the 95-degree Florida heat.
Because of one 6-em?
Yes.
Why didn't you play through?
They don't. They would not allow us to play through.
The 6-em wouldn't?
No.
I hit a ball right up there.
Well, that's a situation where I'm no longer asking for permission.
Well, we weren't right behind them, so we were behind a 6-em and a 4-em. But they clogged it up to where it was a 5.5 hour round, and I don't think I've ever been that mad. The Ranger came out on the 17th hole and asked us how we were doing, and then that's when we gave them a piece of our minds.
Well, we call for a Ranger. I mean that's absurd. Yeah, it's absurd. Shouldn't take more than 4.5. That's
That's on a slow day too.
Not a slow day. Exactly. We have such problems in our lives.
I'm telling
you, don't we?
Could be as bad as Mike. He said he was talking at work with some of his female coworkers about a soap opera that his wife watched, and the fan page started showing up on his Facebook feed.
Yeah.
You think that stuff's accidental, peeps? It's not. We got Bob Kravitz, man. I can't thank you enough.
Hey, buddy.
You got the piece coming out. Anything else? You got some golf you're playing this week?
Yeah, I'm playing a little golf this afternoon.
That'll help you lose that weight,
Well, if I walk.
I was going to – that was my next question. Are you walking?
Hell no.
That's my answer, too. I agree with you, brother. Hell no. That's why they made –
here on the course, so that's a start.
Yeah, I don't do that. My game is bad enough. I don't need to do anything to make it any worse.
You're right.
So you're a fine golfer. Well, he's true. He's telling the truth.
Stink too. So
no, he doesn't. He's better than me. I promise you. Although I did shoot a 41 yesterday, which is shocking for me.
Good for you. What'd you do on the 6th hole?
I I quit.
I
Walked off.
Well, he walked off with his 41.
I pulled a Lee Corso, baby.
There you go. Take a picture and walk off.
Exactly.
I circled those first 6 holes and said, "That's it. I'm out."
I love it. Yes, a little golf today.
Bob Kravitz, The Athletic, cannot thank you enough, brother. Make sure you give him a follow.
Dustin, good seeing you, man.
You too.
Be a subscriber as well. I am. Bob, brought to you by our good friends from Goteen, part of the WOW Network for a limited time only. Goteen, a delicious, healthier snack that helps keep you going. Bob needs some of those.
Indeed.
That could be a part of your diet. I have to get
some.
you some of these. The 16 count Goteen pack can be one of any of your favorite flavors. You can get those at you can order them online. You can also get them from BB's Market. I've seen that. So just mention Coil and the number 10. You'll get an additional 10% off of those as well. GoTeenBites.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out. The sun is out. I still have not found this cord that is missing.
For your
It should have just appeared, and it did not.
It appears as if from nowhere.
Well, it should have, because where the hell did it go? Well, why did it disappear? Man,
I couldn't believe you brought up the Weight Watcher stuff on the air.
Why not? That's what funny, man. That's the funny stuff.
I mean, yes, but maybe not to some people if they're sensitive toward it.
Well, I'm sorry, but have you met me?
He probably wouldn't have mentioned it in the
That's true, because
chat if he didn't want to.
People listening. That's true.
No offense, but if he weighed 450 pounds, maybe I wouldn't have talked about it either. He's Bob is not. I mean, he what's he looking to lose? Maybe 10 pounds. He's not a big guy.
No, and he's a pretty good sport too. Like he makes fun of himself. That's usually how I tell.
That's what he
like,
does.
For me, I can
does constantly.
I do the same. It's like if you can't laugh at yourself.
Yeah. I just always thought that was one of those topics that you steer away from, but maybe I'm wrong.
Man, there's very few topics I steer away from. I leave that for the bootlickers. Well, I'm just saying.
By the way, Jim, I don't know if you used these clips yesterday. I had them loaded in case you did need them. They're still in there.
No clips were
Connor
used.
Bazelak one that you asked.
No clips. No clips were used. We will use them.
And then Tom Allen. Both of the clips are what you asked.
Perfect. Okay, so this is an open segment, right?
It is until 9:30.
Perfect.
Open. And then Kyle Neddenriep will be on, and then Rick Bozich after that.
9:50. And so this is 8:50. No, it's 9:20. Oh, this is the 9:10 segment. Right?
Yeah, because you went a little over with Bob.
Yeah. That's perfect.
All right, here we go.
Fees and pilots. See dealer for
Here we
financing
go.
deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here this fine Wednesday, brought to you by our good friends at RE/MAX Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. A little bit of Indiana basketball news. Alec Lasley in the Hoosier.com reported yesterday that he was told that 2024 top 25 forward Derek Queen from Montverde Academy, former teammates of Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renault, expecting to lock in a few official visit dates for later in September very soon. That could come within the next few days. He is going to be taking one to Indiana. Queen continues to keep the potential to move from the 24 class to the 23 open. We'll see if he makes that jump, but that still remains a possibility. And Indiana obviously has open positions that I'm sure that they're going to make known to him, and he will already be made well aware of the NIL opportunities by his former teammates. And Indiana is also heavily recruiting Liam McNeely off of that same team. So that could be an incredible pipeline there for Indiana to see that keep going. Also, let's see, there is a little bit of other news I meant to hit up. Oh, where did it go? The Indiana staff is expected to take a visit now that visits are allowed, I believe that they are allowed beginning in September 9th, I think. But the class of 23, top 60 forward Arrington Page from Wheeler, Georgia. He's been a priority for Indiana in this recruiting cycle and this entire coaching staff. Coaches can begin to visit prospects in off-campus settings, meaning not at their school, September 9th, which is Friday. So they will not be at the Jim Irsay collection, unfortunately. But I probably will be. Obviously, Page is a 6'9" forward who plays for Wheeler, Georgia High School in the Skills Factory on the Nike EYBL circuit. Indiana offered him back in April, and he has been a priority. They were one of the first major programs to get heavily involved with him. He's number 57 in the Rivals 150 right now. And they have, really made him a priority. And I obviously you see that continue with the plan to go visit him. They want to get him locked in. They want this recruit locked in. And then if they can get Derek McQueen to if that happened as well, and he moved up in class, holy cannoli, Indiana, now you're looking at a potentially top 3 class. That would just be unbelievable for them. So, yeah, things happen, man. You got to wait and let them play out.
And things happen fast too. Like you can, all of a sudden you can be in the running for somebody you didn't expect to be. But we've talked about all summer long that pipeline with Mont. Is it pronounced Montverde or Montverde? I don't know.
Is what?
Is it Montverde or Montverde?
Montverde is what I've heard when I'm down there. Montverde is what.
Montverde. There we go.
Because not to say Montverde, that's just sounds like country, just putting an extra
syllable
emphasis. Yeah, that is not necessary. Montverde, it's a part of the Verde, it's not its own. There's not another, needed there. You know what I'm saying? It's already
Gotcha.
Montverde.
To be fair, though, verde
It's like
is the proper spelling of the word green in Spanish.
But
maybe it means Mount Green.
And I was taught to pronounce it Verde when I was learning Spanish. But if you're Mexican and you grow up, do you say Verde or do you say Verde? Verde, because it sounds so fast when you hear a different language. It's
Good
not
question.
Really, it sounds that way. So who knows? But they pronounce it Montverde probably because it just sounds Montverde.
It does sound very
instead of when you add, like I said, you add that extra Montverde. That's that just kind of country sounding. That's the difference. When my family moved to North Carolina when I was in high school, they did not have a North Carolina or that accent. Now they were from my brother is the one I really graded on because he didn't, and because he was still young too. And but boy, once he got down there, it didn't take long. And I noticed where they lived in North Carolina area, they put the emphasis on the last syllable of the last word. Are you going to go out there tonight? Are you coming over here? You want to go get something to eat? Seriously, that's
so perfect. That is so perfect. Having lived
exactly
in Florida and Georgia, that is
what the hell?
Spot on. By the way,
what the hell?
I lived pretty much all of my growing up life, childhood. I mean, I did live all my childhood, but then until I was 26, I lived in Indiana. And I say all y'all, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I called a cart a buggy the other day. I was disappointed in myself, like a shopping cart. I called it a buggy. You get down here for too long.
Sometimes I do things on purpose too, though.
This was not on purpose. I said it, and I was like, "What the hell did I just say?"
Now, when I was young, I would use the word icebox because my dad called it an icebox.
Icebox, yep.
Because he grew up in that time where they had an icebox. They didn't have a refrigerator.
Right.
They probably had an icebox, a literal icebox. So that's.
But that makes sense. That's not that's more of an era thing. That's not a regional thing. That's more of what you grew up around,
here's the most regional thing you can ever give. When I grew up, do you know what they called a soft drink?
I was just going to ask this. Pop.
No.
Soda.
You'll never get it.
Okay.
A Coke.
Oh no! Yes, that is a big thing in certain parts.
Hey, you want a Coke? You want something to drink? Yeah, give me a Coke. What do you want? And then they'll tell you.
Dr. Pepper, Sierra Mist, whatever. Yep.
Big Red. Or now, if it was a Big Red, you just straight up say, "Give me a Big Red."
Right.
Big Red was in its own category, baby. In its own category. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't forget. Oh yeah, we caught the IU basketball. Arrington Page getting visit by the staff, and Derek Queen coming for a visit, most likely in September. So that's coming up. That'll come up quick. Indiana's recruiting could change like that, man. I mean, can you imagine? And could you imagine if they landed Arrington Page and Derek Queen? First of all, getting 3 guys off of that high school team, and then potentially getting Liam McNeely would be absolutely insane. But I guess in this day and age, nothing is surprising to me.
Well, you have to go.
This is Buggy. What part of Indiana were you in?
Goshen, Goshen, Shipshewana area is another big one up there.
Hey, baby, go to Salem, which is way down in southern Indiana, surrounded by Amish country. I promise you.
LaGrange too, isn't LaGrange a big Amish area?
I'm sure if it's up north, yeah.
If it's in this part, no. This was actually I was in Kennesaw, Georgia.
Robert agrees with me.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a southern Indiana, Louisville thing.
It also trickles down to Nashville. People in Nashville call it Coke too.
I've never heard fizzy water.
I've never heard that either. Do you call it a Coke?
Ed's going straight up 1950s here with his RC and the Moon Pie. That's a 1950s reference.
Do you call it a Coke? Is that what you still call it?
No. If I'll just say, I'll stop and think what I want specifically.
I call it soda.
I'll just say I just want a soft drink.
There you go.
Now,
avoid all controversy.
What did Ross say? Y'all need to hear Jennifer's Tucky accent. There you go. She says she's going to get blocked. Hey, Daniel. See, new name on here. Great to see you. Says you can't wait for the football game this week. Are you coming in town? Hey, how about that crowd? I'm still giving it up to them for the ones that stayed. It was a nice crowd that stayed, and it mattered. If you think that didn't matter, the fans are nuts. I mean, could you imagine if a stadium had been full, how tough that would have been on Illinois?
Yep.
There at the end. So I know we got to hit a break, but I'm trying to hit all these comments real quick. I don't know. Dave G, that's Big Red. I'm sure he's talking about. Who doesn't love Big Red, baby? Not everybody has that.
I'm not a big fan.
You gotta love me some Big Red.
I don't like it.
Yep, I remember Southside restaurant. Yeah, the Amish used to sit outside and sell stuff. Yeah, they did. They'd come inside of the bars down there in New Albany too. Rex's old bar, Ernie's Tavern. They'd come in selling brittle and jerky and whatever else. Stuff. But yeah, Robert asking if anyone remembers when Double Cola had a bottling print. I never even heard of Double Cola.
I haven't either.
He probably
Mike was
Coca-Cola.
Mike was stationed in North Carolina, came back to Indiana and leave after less than a year and had a Southern drawl. That's no joke. I remember a guy I went to high school with, and he went to North Carolina for the Army or Marines. And when he came back, he had a accent. I don't know what the hell it was. It was weird. It was just weird. And Bill has not had a soft drink in 10 years. You're probably better off. We got to take a break. We got lots more coming up. Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star is going to join us. Rick Bozich as well. And we got some clips to hear from Tom Allen, Connor Bazelak as well. So thanks a lot for joining us. Ed, Larry, Tony, appreciate you guys being along. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're in the southern Indiana, Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison County areas looking for a home, you need Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. They have served that area for 3 decades. Reach out to Matt Lincoln there, Matt@barbarapop.com. That's all you need. We're back with Kyle Neddenriep and the Indy Star right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
I saw that Five Lefts asked about Tyler Buckner. So I thought he played pretty well. I just think Ohio State's. I know he watches during on YouTube, so he's in the. But I thought he played really well. I just think Ohio State's defense is a lot better than it was last season. So we'll see. How's it going, Kyle?
Morning, Kyle.
Hey, good, guys. How are you?
Doing well.
Let's see. So he did mean to say Double Cola. Apparently that's an Evansville thing.
I've never heard of Double Cola.
Kyle, do you know what Double Cola is?
Double Cola? Like COLA?
Yeah.
Can't say I do.
Apparently, right. We were talking about sodas for some reason.
4. Well, what do you call it, Kyle? Is it pop, soda, Coke, fizzy water?
Well, so I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. We called it pop. But then I lived in Missouri in Springfield for 13 years. So I called it soda because so now I still call it soda, but now in Indiana here we call it pop. So I'm one of those few who can go. I'm a dual threat. I'm a dual threat.
Jim said they called it where he grew up. Everything was referred to as a Coke,
and that is true because I'm from the same area and I still live there.
Which I've heard from about central Indiana all the way down to Nashville. I remember actually being at not a Rally's. Is it Checkers? It's Checkers down here, I think. And I ordered a Coca-Cola, but I called it a Coke. And she was like, "What kind?" I'm like, what are we talking about here?
Didn't I just tell you?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I've never had somebody ask me like that question, but I've had somebody just say you want me to get you a Coke, not after I'd already asked that I want a Coke. Does that make sense? And then that makes, I don't know. It's so stupid and confusing.
My dad would ask you to get him a Coke, and all he drank was Pepsi. And I hated Pepsi. They taste terrible.
Oh, I love Pepsi.
I think they're both great.
Very different.
Pepsi's sweeter.
Pepsi is sweeter.
Oh, I disagree. How is Kyle doing?
I'm on the Pepsi side too, so I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
Sorry.
0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. We've hit the halfway point. Brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar, all part of the WOW Club and Endeavor Hospitality. Of course, Feast, located right next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers, offering an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff as they take their pairing seriously to help provide you with the exact knowledge you need. Stop in and check out all of their gourmet options as well. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joining us. Man, week 4 of high school football, Kyle. I cannot believe that. We just got through opening week of college football, but gee whiz, they're almost halfway home, at least for the regular season.
After next week, I'll officially be halfway there, so we'll start doing our midseason stuff, and that's always fun. But yeah, it's hard to believe that, but when you start the you have to get all the teams the way Indiana does it, getting all the teams in the tournament. You start a week earlier, basically, so that kind of pushes the timeline forward. And by this time of year, it always feels like you're trying to get to certain stories that you may not even. You start thinking like, man, I don't even know if I can get to that. So it's hard to fit everything in, but yeah, we're off to a good start here. Three weeks through the season, and a lot of really good 6A teams, I think, and we'll start to find out. Center Grove losing to Trinity in double overtime last week. Now their 30-game win streak's over, and can they right the ship and start another long winning streak and win a third straight 6A title? It's kind of the question now.
And you got to give them credit too, because that's not a winning streak built off of not playing people. Like, they just lost to one of the top teams in another state, probably the all-time winningest program in the state of Kentucky as far as state championships go. I know that at Trinity. That's Indiana and Kentucky are so different. Kentucky is dominated by the private schools, Trinity, St. X, down in Lexington, where in Indiana, that's not the case. It's the public schools still dominate and are always the larger schools. So that's kind of something I've always found funny.
Well, they do at the the large school level. It's still pretty much dominated by public schools, although you've seen Cathedral last year winning a 4A basketball title, for the first time. That was different. They'd had teams that had been good, but they hadn't been able to break through and win and get out of their sectional, which is loaded with, highly populated public schools. So I don't know if, that was interesting to me. Now Cathedral playing 6A football, they've been bumped up by the success factor. If they win a 6A football title, then it starts to become like, well, now they can, at least Cathedral. I don't know if there's any other private schools that can compete at that level in Indiana. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, Trinity, when we see our big schools go over and play Cincinnati, St. Xavier or Moeller or whatever, those are tough matchups for them. Obviously, Louisville Trinity's been a good competitor for like Carmel and now Center Grove and Warren Central over the years, and it's always feels like the Indiana team's kind of the underdog going into that game. So, That speaks to what Trinity's program is, but yeah, it's interesting that way. And I don't know if we're starting to see that change a little bit with what Cathedral's doing, or if that's just basically just a one school thing with Cathedral being competitive with them, because there really aren't that many other private schools that are that large. And even Cathedral's not that large, but they can compete with those schools that are basically 3 times their size, and in part because they take kids from everywhere, and that's kind of how they operate. That's how most private schools operate. They take school kids from basically all over the area pretty much. So, but yeah, it's I'm curious to see what the next 10 years looks like with that. And if we see that start to become more of a, more prominent.
Yeah, we see it in the smaller divisions, Bishop Chatard, Guerin, Catholic, and you just mentioned Cathedral. Actually, they're not in the smaller one, but we do see it. Is Ron Colley, are they private? I know Modern Day down at Evansville always have been successful in wrestling private. So, but not just weirdly in the bigger schools, which it happens opposite, I guess, down there. But
yeah, I'm working on a project on something different. I'm working on a project on a kind of where champions come from, state champions, and kind of doing it by county. And this is going to be a long-term project. I don't know where it'll take me exactly, but I kind of been working on it for a year or so and just kind of picking away at it where I can. But one of the things I came across yesterday, I actually tweeted this out yesterday, was about 3A football. And I think 22 of the 28 champions since they went to 5-class are private or parochial designated schools, basically like Ron Colley, Chatard. Those were a lot of them were Ron Colley, Chatard over the years. And then I think six of the last 9, once they went to 6A, 6 of 9 of 3A have been private schools. So and that, of course, created a firestorm of, they recruit, they're, and on and on and on. And people are, that's always kind of a, moth to the flame type of sending that tweet out. It's not what I intended to do, but it's kind of what it turns into. But
is Cecina private school?
Yeah, Cecina.
Well, now you look at 2A and you got Cecina's number 1, Lutheran's number 2, and Heritage Christian's number 3.
Yeah. Yeah, so it
continues to bold for that argument. I mean, it is what it is.
And it's not all about, people want to make it all one thing, and it's not all recruiting. It's not all, whatever. There's a lot of things that go into, and a guy did tweet me a pretty nuanced answer about it. And he's like, hey, we got, there's so many different CYO programs that these kids keep playing football, through their 8th grade and then into high school, because they've been on, there's so many of these teams, CYO teams, there's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of the same coaches who do this. It's so, and continuity, as we know in football, is so important, even at the college level, having a staff that's together and successful, so anything I think like that is going to help create success. And also it's a lot of, there's a lot of money, it's an economic sport as well, and I think we've seen some of that too in a lot of sports. Is just do you have the money to help your athletes compete at a higher level, and I think that's part of it as well. The finances and everything that goes into facilities and all that, and then those schools kind of are able to recruit themselves to a certain extent. When you have success, it kind of recruits itself, and then. Coaches will tell you that too. It's like, hey, I didn't, and I don't always, there's gray to that, but there are kids who go to Cathedral or Chatard because, like, hey, I'm a good football player. I want to go to a Catholic school. Well, that makes a lot of sense to go to a school that's won like 14 state championships, I would think. So there's some of that as well. But yeah, it's a topic that I you don't want to just say it's all one thing, but there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that is, I think, that is just factual. You just look at it. For Indiana, it's in the 1, 2, and 3 because you can. You still can impact teams at that level. Where when you're up in the 5 and the 6A, it's just harder. They're just the schools. I mean, you look at Carmel kind of quasi private school, not really. But Ben Davis, which one of them has 5,000 students?
Yeah, Cathedral's over 5 now. Ben Davis is close. They're over 4, I know, but not quite as big as Carmel anymore. But yeah, it's just a lot of and when you talk about football specifically, I don't know that the numbers necessarily the size of school matters as much in a lot of other sports. But yeah, when you're talking football, the numbers matter. The depth, how you're able to practice, all those things are the overall numbers do matter quite a bit.
Did something happen with Ritter?
Yeah, they had to cancel a game last week because of their numbers. They were low on numbers anyway. Had a injury situation. They were going to play Brebeuf, which is a bigger school. So for
and they're
safety,
not a very big school.
Yeah, but they are a school they've won championships fairly recently. So it is kind of
Right.
surprising that they had to cancel. But yeah, last I had talked to their AD, we're planning on playing this week.
Go ahead, Dustin. You had something?
Well, I was gonna ask. It sounds like when you throw out that 3A stat, one of the things that I know Indiana did several years ago was try to bump up those teams that were dominating to a higher class. But it doesn't sound like that's real. I mean, you only get one team or 2 teams maybe that are going to bump up, so you can't really offset all of that. It's an interesting. I remember back when I was in elementary and high school, and there was conversations about whether or not the Catholic schools or the private schools should have their own class. I mean, is that something you said you put out the tweet? Is that still something that's being discussed, at least among people, the fans?
Yeah, it is. It's something that, and I don't know if that will happen here. Some states do that, and I don't necessarily love it, and I do. When they added the success factor, I was kind of like, I think that's a good way to do it, because you're not affecting all the private schools. When I was in Missouri, they had a multiplier where, and I think at the time it was 1.35. So basically, if you're a private school, your enrollment counts 1.35 to 1 for a public school, basically. So, you're bumping up basically all of the private schools in that case. I have family lives in St. Genevieve, Missouri, and their kids go to Valley, a very small and successful football program there. But, they don't, their kids don't come from anywhere but they're that area, so that it's not like, so you're affecting them by something that really they aren't doing anything other than the same families going to the same school year after year after year. So I kind of like it because it affects, if you're just dominating a class, I mean, kind of my opinion is kind of what fun is that? Why not go up and see, if you're winning year after year, move up and see what you can do at the next level up. And so and it only affects that one program. It doesn't affect, like, if your volleyball is 500, you're not having to move up in volleyball, so I think it's a good thing. I don't know I think we'll have a better data in a few years just to look back on it and see what it's affected. Maybe that's a good time to do that now, actually, and see how it's worked out so far. Cause it's been about, I would say, 8 or 9 years since they added that. So maybe that's a good time. Maybe that's a good story idea, is to look back at that. But I think also what it's done, Dustin, is like you bump these schools up, and then another private school wins.
Right, exactly.
Right. I think that's part of what we've seen, and that's not surprising to me. I kind of thought that might happen that way, but then maybe that team gets bumped up. So, and then another private school wins. So I don't know. It's maybe it may be an endless cycle, but yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I do like it. I think maybe you could take a larger sample size than 2 years, maybe, and go over like maybe a 4-year rolling success, because you have seen, there's been a few times where, and this is probably more of the smaller public schools, is they have a run of like, all right, we have 2 really good classes back to back in, say, basketball, and we win at a high level, and then we get bumped up. All those kids graduate, and we're getting our heads handed to us at the higher level. So we've seen that a few times, but I don't know. I think overall it's been generally, in my opinion, a good addition.
You got week 4 coming up this week, man. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the HSC Fishers game. It's normally one of the biggest crowds. There's probably 5,000-6,000 fans there, and red and red on the Fisher side, blue on the other side, and it'll be a huge atmosphere, big time atmosphere. Both those teams.
That's a lot of people for a high school football game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's probably the most attended game every year. It's just a huge rivalry, obviously, and they're in the same district. So, and with both teams being 3-0, it should be a lot of fun. And we've got a 3-sport athlete story out that just came out this morning that I think is might be interesting. That's kind of somewhat of a dying breed of athlete, and talk to some of those kids about why they do it and how they do it. And in this era of specialization, you don't see it as much. So talk to them about that. So yeah, I mean, that's got some predictions, obviously, and kind of the normal stuff of the week, but that was kind of our big story for this week.
Real quick. I wanted to ask, I know we got to take a break. Are you seeing more of or less of the three sport athletes at the higher classes? Because I know in those lower classes, when you got small numbers, like it's almost uncommon if you aren't playing 3 sports. At least, that was 15, 20 years ago now for me, but is it more of a higher class thing, or are you seeing that trend across all classes?
No, it's definitely at the higher classes. And I sent out a few weeks ago, I sent out an email to all of our coaches in the area, and I thought it was interesting, like the 6A football, they didn't have nearly as many as, say, like, 3 or 4A football. And so that kind of speaks to your point where, and it's not even, a lot of them are now 2 instead of 3, and some people say that's better, to give your body some time to rest and whatever. But I would say, at the 6A level, it's fairly rare. I did find some, like Josh Mickens, who's going to LSU for football, as a defensive end. He plays 3 sport. He plays a really good basketball player, does track, and also plays football. So I think there's some, and you see some football, wrestling, track guys. That's a fairly common 3 sport combination. But at the 4A level, man, you still see there's some of those football, basketball, baseball, which that's become the rarity. That's hard to do because of the skill that it takes for baseball and basketball in the off season. So now, if you're a super D1 athlete, you can still do it. The coach isn't going to cut you because he knows you can help them. Even if you're just there sometimes in the off season, they're not going to cut you if you're that great of an athlete. But for the guys who are more fringe, it's harder, because you got to put a lot of time in the off season, and you almost have to kind of put your eggs in that basket of like, all right, I'm going to do this and do it the best I can, and I may have to give something up to do it if I'm at a school with like 2,500 kids.
Right.
Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow and be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive, baby. I am, and cannot wait to talk to you again next week. Kyle, have fun this weekend.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you. Hey, coming up next, the Hall of Famer, Rick Bozich. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame as Indiana welcomes a new class, and his White Sox. Are they surging? Can they make the playoffs? They're trying, baby. We're back with the king, Rick Bozich, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
Morning, Rick.
Good morning.
We just mentioned the surging Sox.
I heard them. They weren't surging last night. They lost 3-0.
Well, we were talking about them earlier today. That they're there, man. They're trying.
They're trying. Running out of time.
Who else is trying? The Louisville football program.
What are they trying to do?
Trying to lose.
Well, they were successful at it because they got their butt handed to them. That was a little surprising.
It was surprising the way they lost. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It reminded me, and I know the expectations weren't the exact same, but momentum was swinging on Louisville's side from recruiting. The result of that first game reminded me so much of what happened with Indiana and Iowa last year. The shock factor of it.
That's a good comparison. You're in a different spot, Jim. What are you doing?
I have relocated. New studio. I moved and just haven't decided how I'm gonna do this studio.
Cool.
Kind of liking the plainness. It's a lot easier to mess with.
You actually moved where you live, or you moved where you live?
Everything.
Oh wow, where'd you
but
move
I'm
to?
still in the same complex.
Oh, okay.
Now we're coming to you high atop the 18th fairway.
Are you really?
From the tower, baby. The Jim Nantz Tower. Not really, but on the 18th fairway. That is true.
It's another 8 o'clock game for IU too.
Yeah, another 8. I can't believe
I think
that.
it's 7:30, but it might as well be 8.
No, I think it's 8, isn't it?
I think it's 8.
It's 8 p.m.
Well, let's do a little fact checking, shall we?
It's an 8 p.m. game. I remember looking and I couldn't believe it.
You're probably right. If you've seen
8, but I also saw it was on Big Ten.
There you go.
8 p.m. on BTN. Yep.
But
man, hopefully
there was also another 8 p.m. game on Big Ten. But maybe that was an option.
Michigan, Hawaii.
So how are they going to have both of those games?
They have the alternate channels that they'll just stick them on. So.
Yeah.
I saw Michigan. Idaho played Washington State tough, right?
Yep.
But Washington State's also 17-point dogs to Wisconsin this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Michigan 0 or visit EaglePoint.com, the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington, an exceptional golf and dining experience.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Coming to you high atop the 18th fairway from the Jim Nantz Tower of Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Rick Bozich joining us, the assistant general manager to the Chicago White Sox. And
I'm qualified to do more than that.
They're trying, man. They're trying. They're what did I lose?
3 games out, 4 in the loss column, though.
5-5 over the last. Here's what's funny: the American League Central over the last 10 games, the Cleveland is 4-6, so they've helped out Minnesota, who is 6-4, so they're only a game and a half back. But the White Sox have gone Mendoza 5-5. Man, they could be right there right now. It's like, golly. And then let's see, the Royals are 4-6. So it's like that is the absolute the division of mediocrity.
Worse than mediocrity. It's whatever the level is below mediocrity.
That would be the National League Central.
Yeah. I don't know. The Brewers and the Cardinals are better than the winner of the American League Central.
They're pretty close, man. There's some, well, in the American League West, it stinks. Other than the Houston and the Mariners, which were great, everybody else stinks. But I guess it's fun. Baseball's coming around. You think that they'll make just unless something just all of a sudden happens for the White Sox. I mean, it has been like this all year, and usually with baseball you get an indication. But how about the Mets coughing up the first place lead? Now they're in a tie with the Braves.
I mean, Atlanta's been the best team in baseball, I think, since late May, early June. Atlanta.
Yeah, they've won 6 straight now. They've won 7 out of their last 10, while the Mets have gone Mendoza 5-5. So
I mean, it's going to come down to Atlanta, the Mets, the Dodgers, and the Astros. I think the Yankees have been playing bad now for about 6 weeks. Other than Judge, they're really not scoring any runs. So, but you never know in baseball. All it takes is one of those teams could get upset in the first round, and then one of those early series, if somebody like Milwaukee has good enough pitchers, they could upset somebody in a short series. So I don't know. Just got to get there first of all.
Well, the Reds, I don't think they're going to finish in last place. So.
Hey, what'd they start out? 22-20 or whatever it was?
Yeah. I mean, that is an incredible stat. Yeah. Oh, well. Stinks. It stinks. College football's here, man. Mentioned Louisville. They looked not good. That was a little surprising how they lost. And Purdue battled Penn State, but could not come up with that win at home, which it's not like that's losing to someone terrible, but that certainly would have been a great win for Jeff Brom and Purdue to get. They just couldn't get that, but their schedule now eases up greatly. Indiana's, they needed that win and got that win. You can talk about it in exciting fashion in a way that Indiana just doesn't win, Rick. Indiana does not score game-winning drives. They don't go 75 yards at the end of the game. They don't do that. But they did in this game. They did enough to win. And that's something that they have not done in the past, just enough to win, because they've had many opportunities to win games where all they had to do was enough. And last year they couldn't. We saw a little difference in that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was overall more pluses and minuses for IU for sure. I mean, they only had 70 yards in the second half until the last drive. They go 75 yards without any timeouts. They looked like they knew what they were doing on offense. They ran the 2-minute, the 2-minute drill the way you're supposed to run the 2-minute drill. Guys were getting out of bounds. When they didn't get out of bounds, they were the big gainer plays. It was worth the risk to stay in bounds. Camper and Matthews both look like they're receivers who can be productive. Bozich, when he was given time to throw, did a really good job. Defense, I like they came up with the turnovers, multiple turnovers, as well as the goal line stand, and they played a lot of players on defense. I like the depth on defense. The only thing that wasn't there, and it's a big only thing, is the running game. The offensive line can't run block, and they had no running game, and that's going to be a problem against everybody. You've got to be able to run the ball better than that. But overall,
the thing that amazed me is how I don't want to say how well they pass blocked, but they gave up one sack,
right.
And Connor says, "Hey, that was really on me." So they did enough back there to give him the time to get that job done, which just amazing. I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking they'll find a way to be able to work the running game into that somehow. They did lose their right tackle, Matt Bedford, which that's a big loss in the first game. He's gone for the year. Depth is not exactly something that Indiana has an abundance of on the O-line, but I think that there's only one way for him to go, but that's up. So that's another positive for them. And I just have to think that Walt Bell is going to get the running part figured out somehow. He's just going to have to adjust some things, because I don't know that they're going to get that much better. It's going to take more adjustments than improvement.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to have to scheme their way into doing something. And the thing we criticize the running game, but when they needed to run at the very end, the last two plays were runs, and one was Bozich just making a play, and the last one was, and if you listen to the replay, you heard Tim Brando said, "You throw it here," and whoever the analyst was said, "No, you run it." And they did run it right up the middle with Shivers, and he got the yard against Illinois. So when they really had to get the yard, they did. So, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some scheming, but, there's no doubt if you watch them on offense, it was much more creative. They played with tempo. They spread things out. They had it had a whole different feel than it had last year. There's some optimism about it, like, hey, they're trying to do some things because they're not going to be the most talented team on the field against a lot of opponents. So to overcome whatever talent differential they have, they got to scheme it up. And they did scheme it up. And, I'd like to see a few more passes to Barner. He only got a few, and maybe get Simmons involved more, or McCulley caught one pass, Omar Cooper, whatever. But Camper looked really good, hands, got open, and DJ Matthews, if he's open, he's a big play guy. He's got the speed. He makes a big difference in the passing game. I think we overlooked that last year when he got hurt against Western Kentucky. That was really a big hit for the offense to take. So you got to hope that DJ Matthews stays healthy the rest of the year.
I think the biggest
threw more touchdown passes in this game, Dustin, Big Ten, and more touchdown passes in this Big Ten game than they did in all of last season.
It's possible because what was it, 4 last year? Like a ridiculous low total. Yeah,
9 for the year, 4 in the Big Ten.
Oh,
yeah.
They did have 4 in the Big Ten. Okay, I didn't remember them. I didn't know they'd had that many.
The thing that stood out to me, the difference between last year and this year, it was almost like last year's play calling and offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan is almost like they crossed their fingers and toes and just hoped that the offensive line would figure out how to block. Walt Bell knows that's not a strength of his team, so he had to scheme around it. And I said this all offseason, and I said it last week too, or earlier this week too. I just think his experience at Maryland, working with some guys, Indiana does have some playmakers. Maryland had some playmakers when he was there. They did not have an offensive line. So from the scheming department, I feel like that's a huge advantage from Indiana because he knows and understands what he's working with as opposed to last year where it's like, we're going to run our offense and just hopefully this week the offensive line can block. And obviously that strategy didn't work. Walt Bell's, although it was ugly at times, it ultimately did work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
want to know now. So.
As the year goes on, maybe Jalen Lucas will get a little bit more of an opportunity because I think he has the one element that Shivers and Henderson don't have, which is quickness and speed. I mean, when I watch those two guys run, Shivers is, he's fast, but he's not like super fast. Mm-hmm. And Henderson didn't look like he was super fast either. So you could find a way to get the ball to Jalen Lucas or something, or even if they'd had like a power back like Stevie Scott or something, but they don't have that, so they're going to scheme around it and find some way to spread the ball out. I mean, when they came out the very first play on offense, it was encouraging. They had 4 wide, but it was discouraging when they threw the ball to Shivers and he almost got knocked all the way back to Auburn.
Yeah,
I think he'd be back the whole game.
I was going to say they look like and I've said this already, that they knew exactly what the first 2 or 3 plays were.
Yes,
because when I rewatched this game, the guy that hit him is the cornerback. And they've got 3, I think they had 3 wideouts out, and it was the furthest out defender. And as soon as that play started, he makes a beeline for Shivers. He leaves his man without even thinking and just run. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you rewatch it, you're like, there's no way they don't know this play. I mean, it was.
They had to see that on film in Massachusetts or Maryland or somewhere that they knew he was going to try something like that. And fortunately for Indiana, Shivers didn't get hurt because he really could have got hurt bad. He got the wind knocked out of him. They're lucky he wasn't concussed or something and missed the rest of the game.
That's one your ancestors feel, man. I mean, he got hit hard.
Yes, he did.
And I don't know that he was right for the half, at least for a half. I mean,
no,
maybe that may have been a part. I mean, that's a hard hit. I mean, that was a Big Ten hit. You're not expecting it. No brace, and he's lucky. Indiana's lucky he didn't get hurt.
And I'll say this: I don't think Illinois is a bad team. I mean, I don't think they're a great team, but when I went back and looked at Illinois, they went on the road last year and won at Penn State. They went on the road last year and won at Nebraska. That team, I think that Illinois team will be about 5-7, 6-6. It's not like they beat some team that's going to end up 2-10 this year. So that's a decent win. So
and it's the fact that it was Indiana's first game, and Illinois had that first game to work some of that stuff out. That really gave me a great impetus, and that Indiana did not shoot itself in the foot with a crazy, like Cincinnati killed themselves with just stupid penalties. I was watching that Cincinnati game, and I think that when they were in the red zone once, they had 4 penalties in one red zone consecutive.
Luke Fickle was about to lose his mind. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine. I was about to lose my mind, and I didn't even care about the game. I was like, how in the world are y'all making these many mistakes? But so Indiana didn't make those mistakes. They didn't cost themselves on that game-winning drive. And that's what Indiana has done throughout the history. They didn't. It was a different look. Was it the prettiest? Nope. But guess what? They got the win, and it was an important win. Very important. Last week I asked Tom about, he knew how important it was, and he acknowledged. He goes, normally I would just say, it's the next game. He goes, but I know it's bigger. He knew what was at stake.
And I thought they had a night. I mean, the student crowd was phenomenal.
And they stayed. The ones that stayed were great.
Right. But I mean, what they projected 42, they had 44. Considering what that team did last year, and considering it was a high school football night, I thought the crowd
and a race. Yeah, 2 high school football games in Bloomington, and their speedway was still going apparently when people got home from the game.
It was an encouraging crowd for Indiana. It really was, and I have to salute the students in that. When the game started, I mean they had that whole, what that be the northeast corner of the stadium full. And a lot of them left at halftime, but more of them stayed, and I think a few even came back in the fourth quarter to watch the end.
I think so, because there was definitely absolutely more than normal, but I was fortunate to be on the field there for those last few minutes, and it mattered. If they didn't have that crowd, I mean, Illinois only had the ball for 23 seconds, but hey, they only needed 3 points. I will say Indiana did get some luck that they normally don't get. That touchdown Illinois didn't get, that was a touchdown. There's no question about that. So, but hey, it's a positive start, and now they'll get to should be able to get to easily go 3-0 before they head to Cincinnati and take on this Luke Fickell team which, who knows by then what this team will look like. That could be a hell of a game again.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they just got to take care of business against Idaho and Western Kentucky. I saw that Idaho lost to Washington State 24-17 on the road. So I think the game won't be as one-sided as it was last year. And then Western blew out Hawaii. Now Hawaii's terrible. But Western's off this weekend, so Western has an extra week to prepare. So the next 2, you got them both at home. You need to win them both. You need to hopefully win them well enough that you can get a lot of guys in and play and build up your depth, especially on the offensive line. It's obvious now that a lot of the young freshmen and redshirt freshmen on the offensive line are going to have to play. If you want to have an opportunity and you're an offensive lineman at Indiana and you're any good, this is your chance.
No kidding.
Did you see the Cincinnati game?
The Cincinnati against Arkansas?
Yeah.
I saw bits and pieces of it.
They're still a good team, but like I said, they made a ton of mistakes. But they're still a second half team, that's for sure. They like to score in the second half.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I think Indiana, we can all agree, is markedly better. And I don't think Cincinnati is quite as good as it was last year. And last year it was a tight game, through 3.5. I don't remember exactly when it started to turn, but through 3 quarters. So I think
as long as exactly when it started to turn.
Well, I know when it did, but Indiana was still ahead. I just think that if you go, like Rick said, if you get through these games and win the games like you should, you carry a ton of confidence on the road to the Cincinnati team that maybe you don't win, but if you look competitive, if it's another competitive game, I think you carry a lot of momentum then into some of the following Big Ten games against Nebraska and some of the other upcoming guys on the schedule.
Yeah. Well, and plus we talked about already the Cincinnati game would be big. And then that's followed Rick by a trip to Nebraska, who they are stinking, man. They are, I thought that they were, but I expected more out of them this past week than what I saw. And boy, this week it could be getting bad fast for Scott Frost.
Yeah. And there's a lot of I don't know what the right friction below the surface. I saw that this week. Or after the game, they asked Scott Frost who was calling plays, him or the offensive coordinator, and he wouldn't answer the question, and just little things like that sort of become issues when a team's not winning. He's very aware that fans aren't happy with him. He's very aware that his buyout goes down either right before or right after the IU game, and he's very aware. I think if he would lose to Indiana, that there's going to be, considering the trend in college football in recent years of midseason firings. I don't think it's outlandish to predict that if he loses to Indiana, then Nebraska would fire him after the game.
I've said that. And the irony in that is crazy, because we go back to 2019 when Indiana went to Lincoln and upset Nebraska there. And that was on the heels of comments that Scott Frost had made, apparently derogatory comments about Indiana in a closed meeting that was only known by some people. But the irony, if that were to happen, I guarantee you there would be some people just celebrating.
Probably so. But that would mean Indiana's 2-0 in the Big Ten, so that would be that'd be more valuable than Scott Frost losing his job.
Let's see. What else was I going to talk about? Earlier we were talking about the high schools in Indiana and Kentucky, how football that, like down in Kentucky, you got Trinity, who had a great double overtime win over Center Grove to stop their 30-game winning streak. But you've got Trinity and St. X, and there's another big private school in Lexington.
Christian Academy?
But then I forgot about Christian Academy of Louisville, which has really risen up as well. But in Indiana, the bigger schools are still public. The 1, 2, and 3A is the only place where the private schools are really dominant, especially in football. But it's a difference. Maybe it's just a population difference, but it's just odd how that differs between the two states.
Yeah, it is a big difference. And Trinity and St. X have been good now for, Trinity for 40 years and St. X even longer.
And you have the same Ohio, I guess, with Cincinnati's private schools.
Right. You don't have high schools in Louisville like Carmel or Ben Davis or, some of these powerhouse Indianapolis high school area teams. Center Grove, Male would be the only one really that's been really good consistently in football. So yeah, it's part of its population.
My high school is so dumb; they keep scheduling them year after year after
year.
The
season opener. Why deflate your fan base right off the bat?
Every year, I'm like, what is wrong? Come on, Jeff, my man, CQ, get that taken care of. But sorry to interrupt you. But yeah. Oh, but yeah. What's coming up next for you? I know that you were covering. You had Louisville, and that issue. I talked about them losing, which surprised me. And the only reason to talk about them because everything. Jeff Brom is always behind. His name, rather, is always behind. Anytime Louisville loses, boy, people start chirping that name again. But we talked about this before. You mentioned it, and it really stuck with me. I don't know. Louisville would be a place that he's going to want to go anytime soon because of the pay difference. They're not going to be able to pay him what Purdue can.
Right, and plus, the Big Ten is going to be in one of the super conferences, and at Purdue and Louisville and the ACC is not at this point. So I don't know, but I mean, Louisville had beaten Syracuse by 3 touchdowns or more for 3 straight years. They were a 4.5-point favorite, and they went up to Syracuse and only scored 7 points. Got beat 31-7. Just a totally deflating loss. And talking about how they weren't, energized for the game. How can you not be energized for the season opener? And now this week they go to Central Florida on Friday night. Central Florida, coached by Gus Malzahn. They've, I think, won 31 of their last 33 home games. Louisville's an underdog, so they could lose again. Then they come home to play a Florida State team, which looked really improved against LSU.
2-0 now, aren't they?
No, they're 1. Yeah, they are 2-0.
They lost.
They won. They beat some Duquesne or somebody like that the opening week. Some team that was not an FBS school. But yeah, Louisville's staring at the possibility of being 0-3, and considering Satterfield has delivered back-to-back losing seasons, the fan base is already on fire about this start, and that's the world we live in. So Satterfield, I like Satterfield. He's a great guy. He was ACC Coach of the Year 3 years ago, but he needs
what have
to
you
get
done for me lately, baby.
He needs to get this fixed. He needs to get it turned around. And as I mentioned in the aftermath of the game, at this point, it's more than just a football problem. It's also a PR problem, because once you get that trending in the right direction and people doubting that you're the guy who can get it done, it's hard to get it turned around.
Bobby Petrino faced that. I mean, but he was not liked. His personality is like him and Archie Miller, very, very similar. They no people skills whatsoever. And if you're not winning and you don't have people skills, what you got nothing.
Well, this is a place though that's you've been around. They've not had a tremendous amount of patience with football coaches. Petrino was pushed out the second time in his 4th year. Cragthorpe was pushed out after 3 years.
He was terrible though. That was one of the he was a terrible hire. It didn't look so on paper, but man, I don't know how they screwed that one up.
Yeah, I guess, but I'm comparing it to the other schools in this area when Indiana gave Cam Cameron 4 years. I mean, they've given guys time. Kentucky gave Bill Curry 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Louisville is not as patient as those schools, and we're in a less patient world right now. So,
once they started having that success under Howard Schnellenberger, and
John L. Smith,
that success was there. Then they started going to big bowl games, the Orange Bowl. They're like,
well, they've been to the Orange Fiesta and Sugar. They've had a Heisman Trophy winner. They were in the habit of going to a bowl game every year and winning them. I mean, they've known success. They were in the hunt in the college football playoff in Lamar's big year. So they had a very good, a very entertaining team. They've sent a lot of guys to the NFL, and they expect more than I think some other fan bases expect.
Overall, the start of the college season, I think Georgia, Dustin and I both talked to Georgia's probably I've got them at number 1, the same as the Athletic does. That's not the AP, but also the funny thing is you got Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan. That's the Athletics' top 4, and that is exactly where we're going. But you got to give Jim Harbaugh credit for getting his squad back and apparently keeping them there. We'll see what how their season progresses, but they look to be pretty solid as well again.
Yeah, they do. My big takeaways from the first weekend were, one, just the total flop by the Pac-12. Oregon just getting smothered by Georgia, and who was the other Pac-12 team that flopped?
Utah got beat by Florida.
Utah got
beat by Florida on the road. That's the one. So, 2 big dogs in the Pac-12.
Utah didn't look bad, but Florida looks better.
Florida looks better. They've jumped from unranked to number 12. They play Kentucky this weekend.
I was going to say that's not good news for Kentucky because that's in the swamp too, isn't it?
Saturday night at 7 in the swamp. So that's a big game for UK in terms of, proving that they're still what they were last year, which was the second best team in the SEC East. Kentucky played good in the first game, not great. They beat Miami of Ohio 37-13 or something, I think it was. But Florida looks much improved. They always have talent, and Billy Napier seems to have brought out the best in Anthony Richardson as their quarterback. I think he's jumped up to like 4th or 5th in Heisman.
Yeah.
Guy who can run or throw, very dynamic playmaker. So Kentucky's defense will have some work to do to contain him.
This week in the Big Ten, Nebraska gets a break. They play at Georgia Southern at home.
I don't think that's a break.
Yeah, they're not a bad team.
They beat Morgan State 50-7 or 57-7 or something like that.
Is this a potential? Do you have an upset here? Or are you going?
That's one of those no-win games. If you win that game, so what? If it comes closer, you lose. Then it's like, oh, you still stink.
Clay Helton's the head coach at Georgia Southern. Right. I think they're a lot better. I don't think Nebraska's going to lose, but I think it's probably going to look similar to North Dakota, where there's a lot of nervous energy inside Memorial Stadium for 3 quarters.
What did Iowa end up winning? 7-5 in extra innings.
And Kirk Ferentz is sticking with Spencer Petras. And the thing, though, that I thought about after that game was who did they play? South Dakota?
South Dakota State.
Jackrabbits.
They held them to 7, and Indiana, they gave up more than 7 in the first 5 minutes last year. So it can be done. Going into Iowa can be done.
Just not last year by that team, unfortunately for Indiana. This week, Iowa plays Iowa State. It's still at home, but they better be playing a lot better than they did last week. that'll be an upset. Penn State hosts Ohio. Wisconsin hosts Washington State. Let's see.
Who's Michigan State play? I'm interested to see how good they really are.
Akron.
Yeah,
so you're not going to find out.
What about Maryland and Rutgers? I mean, Rutgers had a nice win. They went up to Boston College and won.
Rutgers plays Wagner, and Maryland plays at Charlotte. And Charlotte has been obliterated their first 2 weeks. So that's
Charlotte is also ranked the worst team in FBS by the Athletic.
And they're going down there to play? That's curious. Interesting.
Yep.
And Purdue has Indiana State. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's a not so great schedule when you compare it to week 1.
Yeah.
Who's Illinois play? Illinois is at home to
Virginia.
Oh, no. They got Virginia. I don't know what Virginia's like, but
Virginia's not bad. They have a really good quarterback by the name of Brennan Armstrong.
Boy, that could be if they lose. If they lost that game and went 1-2 to start the year, that would not be good.
Isn't the game of the week is probably what, Kentucky, Florida?
That's one
Kentucky,
of the good
Florida, games. Texas, Alabama, Texas, just because of the names.
If you believe in the fairy tale that Texas can beat Alabama,
exactly. Baylor, BYU, and Pitt, Tennessee is going to be another good one, I think.
What about Wake?
I think it's at Pitt. I could be wrong, but I think it's at Pitt.
What'd you say? What?
Pittsburgh is hosting Tennessee.
Yeah.
What about Vanderbilt, Wake Forest? Never in a million years would I have said that, but Vanderbilt traveled 8 hours and put however many 50 points on the board.
Right, 60.
I know it's 60. I know it was Hawaii, but that's an 8-hour trip. That alone has to take a lot out of you. And they look like they were fresh as daisies, man.
Well, they came back and beat who? Elon, I think it was.
Elon by like 11.
It's an interesting game from the standpoint that I think Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman has been cleared to return. I don't know if he'll play this week against Vanderbilt or not, but he's a really good player. Wake, people forget. I mean, Wake is the team that actually won the ACC Atlantic Division last year, not Clemson. And that guy's a good coach. We saw that Dave Clawson when he was at Bowling Green when he beat Indiana. He's done a good job there. So, yeah, that's an interesting game. I'd say, though, to me, definitely locally, but I think even you can make the case nationally that Kentucky-Florida is probably the best, most interesting game on the card.
Both are ranked. Kentucky's 20th, and Florida's jumped up to 12, and it's in the swamp. That's going to be a tough game for Kentucky. How about App State? They're at Texas A&M, baby.
That could be a sneaky good game.
I wonder if they can score 40 points in the fourth quarter again.
No.
Charlton Warren's not coaching the Texas A&M defense.
I have pointed out that you look what happened this week. You had the North Carolina defense give up 40 points in the fourth quarter, 60-something points overall. And then you had Michael Penix win the starting job hands down at Washington and throw for well over 300 yards. And did he play more than 3 quarters? I don't know that he even played the fourth quarter.
I quit watching after halftime.
So that's what they lost. And this team did not have last year that was actually there. So, and we've already seen how much better the Indiana team is. So
there's no doubt. But I mean, on defense, we didn't mention him, but Chad Will, and Tom Allen. I mean, the defense was definitely much more aggressive. Definitely more athletic. And I think it's number 0, Deshaun McCullough looked like one of the best IU prospects I've seen on defense. Probably since Scales, and probably even better than Scales because he's bigger. But he made his an impact when he was out there, and he's a guy when he gets some experience can be a really good player for Indiana.
The biggest question there: are they going to be able to keep him and not go to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, didn't Osterman do a story with him today saying he came to Indiana because he's not even thinking about that stuff, and that's what he's got.
I don't care what anybody says. Today's today. Tomorrow things change. What's up next for you, Rick?
This weekend I'm not going, but we'll be following Friday night Louisville at Central Florida and Kentucky at Florida. So it's a big weekend down here for those 2 games on the local scene. And I'll be watching IU Saturday night, and Western doesn't play, so that's the main thing we got going on right now, and waiting for basketball recruiting to heat up, and we'll be soon get Big Ten schedule comes out tomorrow? Is that right? Big Ten basketball schedule.
We're looking forward to it, man. Can't wait. Rick Bozich, Hall of Famer. I didn't get a chance to talk about Indiana entering their Hall of Fame class, but we'll talk about that next time. Don Fisher was one going into that.
DJ White, Ashley Benson. That's nice class.
Yes, was very cool. Hey, man, I can't thank everybody enough. Bob Kravitz, of course, from The Athletic, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, as well as Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com. And most importantly, John, the producer as well. But thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. So go out, have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow on the other side. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.